taking a sip here. It is one heck of a warm day today in Atlanta. I'm doing some videos, and so this one's going to be a little bit different than what you guys are used to. So if you don't want to watch it, that's perfectly fine. You can click off. You know, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Everybody has their own way of watching their topics and all of that. Today's video is going to be a little different. It is going to be talking about my situation, my three times that I have gotten a COVID test so far. Okay, and I'm going to talk about, and there are three different tests. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about are how it feels like, what it's like, how fast the results are, all of that. Okay, so if this is something that doesn't interest you, if you don't care about what it's like to take one of these tests, then have a great day, and I will see you in my next video, which of course will be again on skincare or beauty products or things like that. But I did want to address this. I thought it was important enough, especially now with a resurgence of a lot of positive tests that are going on out there between all of the major states and everything. We live here in Georgia. Georgia has had a surge in new cases, as has Florida, where I do have relatives living in Florida as well. So I'm very concerned about them. So I thought I would address this and just go through some of the things that I figured out, that I found out, things that work, things that don't work, and in the hopes that it helps other people as they're going through this process. Okay, the first one up will be the first test that I took was actually an antigen test. So what is an antigen test? The antigen test is a blood serum test that tests for certain factors in your blood, certain antibodies in your blood, to let you or your physician know that you already have had COVID or coronavirus. Okay, now caveat being, this is probably going to be demonetized or whatever, I don't care. This is for everybody's benefit, so I will talk frankly about this. So anyway, that's what it does. It actually checks for, have you had it, and has your body been making antibodies now? Are you supposedly immune now to getting the virus? Now, there's a lot of talk about, is this really true? Does the coronavirus behave like a flu or a cold virus? Once you have an antibody, will it kind of prevent you from getting the virus again, or getting a very severe case of it again? Okay. So the first thing was, I had never had any tests done before. At where I work, we were coming back, and I won't name names or anything. I'm not allowed to. Anyway, I don't talk about my job, but as in with most jobs, we we had been instructed to work from home as much as possible. Other jobs are doing the same, and so when we started to come back into the office, we had the opportunity to get tested for COVID, and that was really good. I didn't have to stand in line or do anything. Our facility was very gracious enough to go ahead and pay for any type of COVID testing or antigen testing that we felt we needed. And I volunteered. I said, okay, no big deal. And I got the test done, the blood test done. The blood test is done by putting a tourniquet on your arm, as most blood tests are done, and then they take only one tube of your blood from your vein, and then they get the test results back in about 2 to 4 days. Okay. And that's what happened. It's no big deal, just like going to any other doctor. You get your test done, and then they call you. The health facility that took the test called my number. You had to fill out your form, of course, your personal information, your phone number, all of that, and they would go ahead and call you in about 2 to 4 days to let you know the results, which for me were negative. I'm disclosing that. It's not a big deal. So I was, kind of almost, oh, great. I've never been exposed to it. I'm negative now, which means I can still get it. So, in one sense, it was relief that I had never had it before. In another sense, in my mind, it was like, well, geez, now I still can get it full blown, so I still have to social distance, and I mean, I would anyway. I have to social distance, wear a mask, do everything to prevent myself or to prevent anyone else from being infected. So this was, about a couple of months ago, and on we went. And then about a month later, I would say, I got run down and I was exhibiting a little bit of a low grade fever. I tend to run those. That's just my body saying I am so exhausted and so tired that I actually get achy, and I actually start feeling like I'm about to come down with some sort of sickness. And I normally ignore it. I don't really do anything except rest, and it always goes away. It's just the way that my body handles stress or a stressful situation. Other people might get a migraine. Other people might, loss of appetite or whatever their body triggers as far as really being tired and worn out and things like that. For me in particular, I usually run down to the point where I have to get into bed and rest, and I might have a low grade fever. But being the times that they are now, having a low grade fever for me was like suspect. Like, oh my God, what do I have? Is it that? Is it the virus? Should I test? Whatever. And I didn't want to have a chance of infecting anybody else at work or infecting my family. So I took it upon myself to get an actual COVID test, which was the throat swab. Now, if you guys don't know, usually on some of the places where you can get tested, you can have a choice between the nasal swab or the throat swab. And the throat swab is just a really long Q-tip that, you just like you have a strep swab or a flu swab on your throat, they do the COVID swab on your throat, okay? So on this one, I did go to a facility. I had to drive to one of those, stand in line with your car facilities. And I was lucky enough that I believe it was right after, what was it? Memorial Day weekend, if I remember correctly. And and there weren't a lot of people there first thing in the morning. There was maybe 2 cars or 3 cars ahead of me. So I got in line and I verified, I made an appointment ahead of time. I got in line, verified my, my information and all that. They had everything electronically, all my health insurance cards, all of that. And I specifically asked for the throat swab. I have this thing about the nose thing. So I just wanted to go with the throat swab. So they were gracious enough. They had it, no big deal. When I got up to be my turn, I did disclose that I had had fever prior for a day or two, that I was feeling run down. I did disclose all that. So because of that, I did get the throat swab, and that was in a different tube. They did check my temperature, which I did have a slightly elevated temperature. I believe it was like 99.1 or .2. I did not have a cough or anything like that, but I was tired. I was kind of still run down. And after they did the throat swab, they actually had a physician come out, suited up, come out to my car. I'm looking at my time here, I'm doing it. Come out to my car, and actually what I thought was amazing, they did a stethoscope on my chest to make sure that my lungs were clear. And again, he did look in my throat, just to make sure there was no inflammation. He asked me a couple of extra questions, and that was it. And then I was on my way. That was the story about that. I got my results in about 3 days. They called back. Again, I was negative. I was very good to hear that. I did elect to work from home until they called and cleared me. I did not, again, want to infect any of my coworkers or be around anybody, that I could substantially, harm in any way. So that was a relief to know it was just my own body doing my own thing, and on I went. Okay. And now the third test that I got. So this was about a week and a half ago. Again, we were advised to do that because of the resurgence of the coronavirus around us. We had some close cases around us, and again, I won't go into detail, but there was a substantial need for a number of us to get cleared just to make sure everything is okay, and we have not been exposed to anyone else in our direct vicinity that may have come down with anything. So this time around, I was not successful. I was trying to get the rapid test done, which is a 15-minute test. It's a nasal swab, and it tells you the results in about 15 to 20 minutes, or they usually call you back in about a half an hour, or call or text you the results. For some reason this time around, the lines were 4 to 6 hours long. I think, it has to do with the kind of wave and resurgent positives that we're getting here in Georgia, that everybody's starting to get scared, and they're all starting to line up and try to get the test done as quickly as possible. So in this case, I actually called my general practitioner, so my physician, and this is one of the things where I want to tell you, one of the avenues you might want to try is to call your private physician, call your GP, and see if they might have availability, if they might do testing on site. I lucked out because my physician did offer for his immediate patients. Now, you had to be a patient of his. He wasn't just taking people off the street to do the COVID test. They only have a finite number of tests for their location, and it is for their patients to come in if their patients are feeling ill or anything like that. They have a wing set aside in their office, a special room set aside in their office, and suited up nurse assistants being able to administer a COVID test right then and there if you come in. So I would urge you to kind of go ahead and call your physician and see if they have that availability on, in your location, if you are feeling ill, or if there's any chance that you do want to get tested, and rule out that you have been exposed in any way. So that was my story. I made the appointment for them, and I made it, I believe, like the next day, so I was able to go in. And this time it was the nose swab. There was no getting around it. It was the regular nose swab. It wasn't the rapid test nose swab, and this would be, the results would come in 2 to 4 days, okay? And, it was what it was. I had to get it done. I wanted to know, just in case of anything. And so they had me come into a special exam room, normal exam table, chair, like any place else. They had me lie down, pillow behind my head, my face tilted upwards like this, and they advised me not to squirm or anything, because if they couldn't get a good sample with the swab, they would have to do it again. Now, it was just one nostril, it wasn't two. Well, it was just one, okay, because I didn't know any of this process. That was a long stick about this big, and it was apparently in some sort of, chemical, obviously. Okay, so this one was by far, not to scare you guys, but this was by far the most uncomfortable one of all the tests. I mean, A little poke in my arm for a blood test, no big deal. The throat swab, you gag a little bit, like that, you know, you have your natural reflex to gag. It's over with. You're okay. Just don't drink or eat anything, by the way, before you do the throat one, because you know, because of your reflux. I mean, seriously, you feel like you want to throw up. Okay, not that you're nauseous, you just have that gag reflex. With this one, um, when they put it up my nose, this hurt like I can't even believe. I can't even tell you. It not to scare you or anything, but this was like when you're a kid in a pool or in the ocean and you snort water up your nose, all the way up your nose, like it's going to your brain and your brain is exploding, like brain freeze. That's what it felt like. It was uncomfortable. It lasted way too long. I am not squeamish when it comes. I have pretty good pain tolerance, and I was like, you know, I mean, I was holding on for dear life, for dear life. My eye started watering. You will have that happen. It was over. Thank goodness they didn't have to do a second one or go into the other nostril. And I literally, it was such a brain freeze for me. And maybe it's because my body's just not used to chemicals or not used to anything. Um, I, I literally had a headache afterwards that started out, you know, after I got it done up until that night. And then I took some Tylenol and it went away. But it was just such uh, disruption or shock, I guess, for my system to have this chemical up my nose and to have this brain freeze happen. That maybe just from tensing up that much, I just had this just really bad reaction, like a really bad headache, like almost like a sinus headache, like right here, you know, like that sinus headache, that pressure sinus headache. It was just, guys, if you can do the throat test and get away from doing the nasal swab, try to do that. If your gag reflexes are not bad, I mean, if you want to do the nose, some people, I've talked to my friends, I've talked to my colleagues, and some people it's no big deal. They can get it, you know, multiple times and doesn't affect them at all, and they called me a big wuss because I went through this. But I'm telling you, this was my personal experience, only talking about myself, nobody else. The nose was the worst. The nose was the worst, okay? So that's all I wanted to tell you guys. That one was negative as well. Thank God, everything is okay. It is available around your community. If you have certain instances where either for whatever reason you've been to a social gathering, you've been to a barbecue, you've gone out to the beach, you know, restaurant, whatever, public place, and you feel that, gee, I don't know if I've been exposed, I've been around people I don't know. I would urge you to try to get tested. You know, don't wait till the last minute. There are horror stories and really substantiated stories out there on people that have, you know, gotten sick and tired of being at home or being cooped up or not being out among the public and go out for one time or start to socialize and they get very, very sick. One poor guy went to a barbecue, got sick, tested for COVID, and died within a week of going to the barbecue. So poop happens, and you can never be too careful. If there's a situation that you're in, or if you are unknowingly exposed and you found out that someone that you've been in contact with has come down with the virus, I would strongly urge you to try to make arrangements and try to get tested as quickly as possible to mitigate any, you know, any harm or anything really, really violently. Getting violently ill is just you know, especially the older you are, and if you have any health issues aside from, you know, that, uh, you know, it can be really bad. It can go downhill really, really badly. So that was just my personal experiences. I don't mean to scare you guys. Uh, you know, so far, thank goodness, everything's okay, and you know, it's been okay with us, and we're maintaining our, you know, distancing and everything like that. But if you can't get around it, if you're traveling, for example, if you're on an airplane, for example, and you really feel like, you know, someone was coughing and hacking next to you for 2 hours, um, I would really urge you guys to go ahead and schedule a test and get it done. I love you guys very much. Thank you again for subscribing, and thank you again for viewing this. And I'll be back to my regular programming, of course. I'm in the midst of making more videos today. I just wanted to go ahead and post this out there and hope that it helps someone, okay? I love you guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!